That's a new mug, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, let's show you your
Well,
mug. Good morning, everybody.
good morning.
Good morning. Katie's got a new mug.
Yes.
Junebird
I
coffee.
picked this up at the Junebird coffee trailer in Depot about a month ago. But I did just see where they're doing a giveaway. And I think this mug is in the giveaway.
Fantastic. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes.
Oh, and we have a special guest that's joining us in a minute or two
And
here.
we can see you. Oh, requested to join. Okay. Trying to see how we can get you in here. View request. In the app, the Connecting Clarkson app, we have linked to where Junebird is going to be. I want to say Thursday at Bowman Chevrolet.
Oh, yay.
Good.
I did it.
No, this is the hardest part of any of these things we
I
do, is actually
am so
connecting.
nervous.
Oh my gosh, we get nervous too.
Good
So
Yeah.
morning. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm good, yes.
Let me, Katie and I were talking about how we pronounce your name, and I want to make a guess. Lee Koskinen?
The last name, it's Leah, but
Leah
Koskinen is
Koskinen, we got it right.
correct. Yeah.
yes, you were close.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, fantastic, Leah Koskinen. But we actually have talked about you several times, and you have, been in our rotation. Like we got to chat with her, we got to connect with her, and I guess we always call you Make Derm Sure.
Yes, that's okay.
So,
Hey.
I
oh,
feel like it's so catchy,
it is.
and it really sticks in my memory. So I think that was a great
Good.
name.
That's good. I
Yeah.
like that. I took a lot of time to put thought into like my name can't just be Leah Koskinen. Like I got to do something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. And one of my girlfriends has started calling me the sunscreen lady. She's like, I think I'm just going to start doing that. And pretty soon everybody will catch on.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
welcome. Thanks for coming on with us. And
Yeah. Thanks
I
for
know it's like
having me.
towards the end of summer, but I know that skin cancer awareness is something that we should talk about at all times. So
Yes,
I'm really glad we got a chance
for
to
sure.
connect and we can hear your story and learn about things that you're passionate about and how we can help your mission and help inform other people. So welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for being
Thank you.
here. And you want to start with the name, like your Make Derm Sure, like where that came from and why that's your handle?
Yeah. So, the Make Derm Sure is kind of a play off of making damn sure you're safe in the sun. Um, I was diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma. It's been almost 6 years now, or it has been 6 years. I was 25, and it was shortly after my son turned 1. Um, so I had a mole pop up. I knew nothing about skin cancer. I was an avid tanner. I remember mowing my parents' lawn on the lawnmower with my baby oil and like my SPF 5 on.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and I did some tanning in the tanning beds like prior to going to Mexico for spring break, the
Mhm.
same kind of same old story. Um, and so the mole popped up and thankfully my mom said, "Hey, you're a mom now. Why don't you just start going and getting skin checks because you have fair skin, you have moles, just start going where I'm going." And thank gosh the timing was the way that it was because I had a mole pop up like right here over my bra strap. So it was something that I noticed versus like having something on your back where you can't see it or in a spot like that. But it thankfully had popped up like a month prior to that yearly appointment. So they took it off, they biopsied it, but she said, I'm really not worried about it, but let's just be sure. So I left that appointment. I didn't even think twice. It was totally off my radar. I honestly didn't even know that like melanoma was a possibility when she took it off. And then she called a week later and said, it's melanoma. We're concerned about how deep it is, and we immediately are going to transfer you over to University of Michigan. And so I did my surgery, my checkups. I've done everything there since then.
Mhm.
Um, so it was just, of course, an extremely eye-opening thing that happened, right? Because
Yeah.
we knew nothing about it. I mean, we had heard the name melanoma before, but beyond that, we knew nothing. So um, that kind of propelled me into becoming really passionate about obviously sun safety for myself, but especially for my son at the time. And then our daughter is now 2. We actually had to hold off on having her they told us 5 years. We ended up waiting like 4 years because melanoma is something that can get to the fetus,
Wow.
one of the very few cancers. So we were told we had to kind of put that on hold for a while. So, there's so many other things when you have a skin cancer diagnosis that people don't think about. I think there's like a really strong misconception around, oh, if I have a mole, I'm just going to get the mole taken off and then I'll be good. So I don't like to share those other things to like scare anybody or do the whole poor me thing. It's just more of like you have no idea how serious it actually can be.
Yeah. And how it
Um,
sounds like how quickly it
yes,
elevated quickly, or before you even knew to be concerned, it
yes,
sounds like.
exactly. And thank goodness it got taken off as quickly as it did because it was already stage 3 at that point and had already reached my lymph nodes. So it's just like, if that
Well,
appointment would have happened before that mole popped up, it's like I don't even want to think about.
yeah.
I think you're such a great spokesperson for this also just because you are very young. Um, and so I am a dental hygienist, which I have to mention at least once every podcast. And this was many years ago, but I had a very young patient in the chair and she was in medical school. And she ended up having a mole on her leg that she would have paid no attention to. But somehow, with being in medical school and like things they were going through, she ended up getting it checked out. And same thing, it did end up being something
Wow.
that was a big concern.
Yeah.
So, and I know even when I go to the dermatologist and they do these scans, I feel like it's always the moles that I think are going to be a problem, but they're like, oh no, that one's fine. And then the ones that I feel like it's
Yeah.
so difficult. So I do think that those routine checks are important. Is that something that should happen once a year or how frequently?
Yeah, it's definitely something that should happen once a year, unless you see, something that pops up that starts to look weird. Like if it's changing, not necessarily that it looks weird, but just if it's changing. My dermatologist does like walk-ins.
Hmm.
So if you have something that looks weird, instead of having to like, wait 4 to 6 months to get in for an appointment, they have that option, which obviously with my history, I really
Yeah.
appreciate. Um, but yeah, once a year is
Who
definitely
is your dermatologist? Is this at U of M or is this somebody local?
Clarkston Dermatology.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after your experience being so young, is the recommendation for people at what age are we supposed to start getting these yearly checks?
So I would recommend, that's a good question. I don't know like the official recommendation from, the Dermatology Association, but I feel like once you hit 18 and become an adult,
That's true.
that would be that would be my personal
Hmm.
recommendation, just because you've been out in the sun now for 18 years, and unfortunately, we're starting to see more and more cases of younger people being diagnosed with melanoma.
Yeah.
So,
I think just this morning you maybe posted, was it this morning you posted about the sunshade and how you were measuring,
yes.
and like you would like to see the schools put up these sunshades over the playgrounds. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. That's something I had never thought of.
And it's something that until I started like driving around and all, my son being in all these sports and different school activities and stuff, we're at Clintonwood Park, we're at the school playgrounds, in all the areas. And most,
Well, we can't hear you.
I think she knows.
Oh. Um,
Hmm.
we can't hear you.
Oh,
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 there
you're
you
can
back.
go.
you hear me
There
now?
you go.
Oh,
Yes, you're
shoot.
back.
Okay, I had a notification pop up and I put time limits on my social media so that I don't get out of hand. I've already
That's
reached my
really
Good
limit
smart.
for
idea.
today.
That's smart.
Um, okay, let me start over a little bit. Yeah, but with my son being in all these activities and him being in the different elementary schools and stuff, it's most of them do not have sun protection whatsoever, whether it's big trees or some sort of, like the three triangle tarps. So I would love to have that be more. And it's not about fully covering, it's not about being in the shade 100% and putting a fear of any sort, but it's just, recess times are typically in the middle of the day when the UV index is the highest. And being out there for a half an hour, that's plenty of time to get a sunburn.
Yeah. So, through your journey, where has your advocacy taken you? Like, I know that this started for you when you got your first diagnosis, but I'm sure it's changed and, your efforts. I obviously you have Make Derm Sure, and I know you're doing a lot of different things to promote awareness. Like, can you
Yeah.
talk about some of the things that you've been involved in and how you're trying to get the awareness out there?
Sure. So I started off a few years after my diagnosis. I started doing a lot of volunteering with University of Michigan. I genuinely feel like I owe them my life, and they have been phenomenal through everything. So I'm on a few different patient and family services boards there. And I just worked with a few oncologists around getting peer mentors into the melanoma area, specifically of U of M. U of M's had peer mentors for quite a while in different cancer areas, but melanoma specifically has not been something that had been up and running yet. So they have like a matching program. So I'm a trained peer mentor through them, and I'm able to match with other melanoma patients that are either young moms, young people in general, whatever kind of criteria kind of matches. Um, and I'm here to be a sounding board for them. I'm here to, it's different. I have a great support system, but it's different having a diagnosis like that and being able to talk to somebody who knows what it's
Mhm.
like to go through something similar. So I'm really trying to give back in that way. And then I'm doing different things at Bowdoin School. I volunteered to help put sunscreen on the kids for field day at the end of last year,
Mhm.
because that's another, fun run and field day are the two outside events that kids, again, are outside in the middle of the day, and they're typically outside for longer then. So the fifth graders, the older kids, they can typically handle it themselves. But like last year, my son was in first grade, and his um, field day window wasn't until like 1 o'clock. So realistically, me putting sunscreen on him before he went to school, if we're following the 2 hour
Mhm.
rule, doesn't really matter. So just raising more awareness that way. And then I'm just trying to really get in touch. I've got in touch with local businesses and just trying to spread the word. I think it's important to spread the word to everybody, regardless of your age, because you guys having kids, you can educate your kids more if you're educated more. But then also speaking to kids directly too
Mhm.
can make a big impact. And it's about like not wanting kids to be afraid of the sun. It's not about a fear. It's just about we eat fruits and veggies to protect the inside of our bodies, and we wear sunscreen to protect the outside of our bodies.
Yeah. I know I see you doing like a lot of videos and different things on sunscreens, and I feel like skincare right now, right? Our daughters are 11. The
Yeah,
TikTok skincare world is on fire.
yeah,
Um,
mm-hmm,
Sephora is full of young girls.
Mhm.
yeah,
So I do feel like that's probably a really good target audience for you, are these like
mm-hmm,
young people that are so concerned about their skin.
mm-hmm.
Um, so I did bring a couple of my products
Oh yeah,
that I wanted to
yeah,
ask you your thoughts on.
sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
So first off is my Sun which you can buy in bulk at Costco, and I do love Costco. And it says that it's gluten-free and vegan, antioxidant enriched, and dermatologist tested. So I know like nothing about sunscreen, but that sounds impressive. What is your rating and thought on
So,
Sun?
so my thing with sunscreen in general, there's so many things these days about ingredients and certain ingredients potentially being linked to cancer. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to get into any of that. My thing is like wearing sunscreen, regardless of what the ingredients are, is better than wearing no sunscreen. So if it's a chemical, if it's a mineral, it doesn't matter. Just wear sunscreen.
Mhm.
The sun balm I have not used recently.
Okay.
Last time I did use it, and it might have not been, they've got a few different variations. One of theirs had a really big white cast, and being that I'm so pale and my children are already so pale, I would prefer them not to look like ghosts. So I did not circle back to the sun bum because of that.
All right. So the next one up, I only have two. This won't go on forever.
This is it.
But
Oh,
is Supergoop, the unseen sunscreen. So I was on a girls' trip and one of my friends was using it and I used it and it's so
yeah.
thin and amazing on your face.
Mm-hmm.
I will say it was really
Yeah.
expensive. However, it was also HSA approved. So
Oh,
Yeah.
that's different.
yeah, thoughts on Supergoop?
Supergoop is great. The ingredients are great. It's a really just high quality ingredients. You're right. It is expensive. It's a smaller bottle, so you're definitely going to be spending more money. Um, I They have a matte version of the a face one. It's just called matte screen, I believe.
Okay.
I really like that one. That one for me makes me feel a little bit too shiny.
Okay.
But that's where everybody's face chemistry is different.
Got it.
But the matte version of it I really like.
Oh,
And then their body sunscreen, they have the Play. Um,
which I have
I
that.
all
I have like a huge
the like
pumpable
pump.
tub of that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I do like that too. My only thing, and there's no scientific whatever behind this, but because it's so thin, sometimes I feel like I'm not getting enough on.
Okay.
So just really go by, it's supposed to be a shot glass amount for your body and 2 finger lengths full for your face.
Okay.
So, just make sure you're putting enough on.
So through all your experience and your advocacy, I feel like there's a lot of different advice about sunscreen. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I appreciate what you're saying. Any sunscreen is better than none. And everyone's trying to get to the best ingredients, and I appreciate that. But I've heard lots of different things, like make sure you're out in the sun for 10 to 15 minutes before you put sunscreen on so you get the vitamin D, and
Mm-hmm.
or not to actually do it, an hour before. Like what is your latest research say
Yeah. What are
about the
you seeing? What are your
protocols?
thoughts?
Yeah.
My thought is you can get vitamin D in other ways. You can take a supplement, it's in different protein drinks or shakes or that kind of stuff. But, even with my history, I think the first couple of years I was like genuinely terrified of the sun. Like I would sit in a shaded corner before I would even think about stepping out there. And as time has healed me, I have been, it is good to get sun or good to get sun exposure. However, when you're wearing sunscreen, you're not, unless you're wearing SPF 100, you are not 100% covering yourself from the sun.
Yeah.
So you don't need to not wear sunscreen to get sun exposure. You can still be wearing sunscreen and get the benefits of vitamin D.
Right. So you're saying like put it on, it's still coming through,
Yes.
like even if you have it on. Yeah. Well,
Yes.
and I feel like you have a lot of information about younger people, and I don't know if it's just like generationally, but I feel like older people might be like, well, I lived to
Yeah.
60 years. Do you feel like from your research, is there a benefit to like continuing, that regimen?
Yeah, I think so. The scary thing about melanoma is that it can go anywhere in your body and it can skip different spots. So even if you're 85 years old, like do you want to have a cancer that goes from this little mole to all of a sudden being in your lungs or your liver or your kidneys? I mean, it's a really scary, and it can be a really, really aggressive cancer. I mean, this mole popped up and it was already stage 3 by the time it was taken off and I had surgery like a month and a half later. I mean, it can be really, really aggressive.
Mm.
So you just never know. You just never know.
Yeah.
I think you should be doing it regardless.
I know we talked about maybe getting some tips with sending the kids back to school and kind of with fall upon us,
Yeah.
just some thoughts on continuing to protect yourself even when it's not 90 degrees outside.
Yeah, that is such a misconception is that like the heat is the equivalent to you needing to wear sunscreen. Temperature has nothing to do with it. And even I had to share this stat because 80% of rays can still penetrate the clouds when it's a cloudy day, because that's another thing, right? The sun's not out. I don't need to wear sunscreen.
Yeah.
And then the rays can also bounce off of the snow
Mm.
and come back onto you. But tips, I would love to see, you know, how the kids get the school supply list sent
Yep.
home. I would love to see sunscreen just added to that school supply list. You know, we've got the meet the teacher night and we can bring the school supplies. Why not? I mean, I'm planning to bring a bottle of sunscreen to just have in my son's locker with his name on it. Um, and then another tip is I drop him off in the morning, so I always will put sunscreen on him in the car line before he gets out. Um, Again, there's that 2 hour rule of you should really be applying every 2 hours, but we're not going to get too like perfect on this.
Yeah.
Having something on is better than nothing. So in my head, I'm like, at least I'm sending you with it, at least on your
Yeah.
face. And then if it's in his locker, then if we get to a point where he does feel like he wants to put it on, he can quickly throw some on his face or his arms before he goes outside for recess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems
That's a good
reasonable.
idea.
I'm glad you mentioned the snow too. We're big skiers, and I think people forget, like you said, when it's cold, who cares? But
Yeah,
people get sunburned all the
yeah,
time
Yeah.
in the winter.
yeah,
So that's a good thing to keep in your brain, and maybe just always have it on hand. Maybe always have it in your purse, in your
Yeah.
backpack, or
yeah.
I know I asked you about these too, but do you have like your go-to sunscreen? Do you have one that you prefer over the others?
Yeah, I do like Supergoop. I do like Seaweed Bath Co. You can get it on Amazon or Whole
Okay.
Foods. But that one, I'm like a big, like, I want it to feel like lotion. I don't want it to have a white cast. I don't want it to be thick or have a weird smell. The Seaweed Bath Co. has been like my top one. And then I actually just have been trying another one. She's actually a melanoma survivor that started her own sunscreen company. It's called Melan, Sun Care.
Mm.
And she has both a lotion and a spray. And the lotion, it smells good. There's some essential oils in there, so it's like good for your skin. There's other benefits.
Yeah.
But same thing, there's no white cast, goes on like lotion. So I really like both of those.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
I had
all
to pick
good
two.
info.
What about lip coverage?
Oh,
Yeah, so that's another big thing that people miss, and it's an easy spot. There's some stat out there about lips actually being like a really high spot for melanoma because it's just easy to forget about. I actually have one sitting right here. This is a lip gloss. It's Elf. It's like a $6 bottle.
mhm.
It has SPF 25 in it.
Mm.
But there's a brand called Jack Black, and that's just like a chapstick, like it's not a lip gloss type thing that I really like too. So whatever you want, it doesn't
Whatever.
matter, but you should be wearing sunscreen on your lips
Oh
too.
my gosh, I forget where we were like 2 weeks ago, and I guess my lips did get a little burnt, although I didn't put it together. I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so dehydrated. Why do my lips feel like this? And finally I was like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, no, you burnt
Well,
them.
I feel like that's overlooked, and parts. Like
in
my
your
daughter always uses
part.
a
Yeah.
part, and her part gets
Yes,
burned,
that's
and
another
it.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, Supergoop has that also. They have a part powder,
Oh, that's a good
but
idea.
you could also just use a ton of companies now are coming out with like the powder sunscreen with like the brush on the end.
Mm.
Like it's meant for like to reapply over your makeup or as makeup or whatever, but you could easily use that on your part too so that you don't use sunscreen like a lotion and it gets, you don't want your hair to be
That's a
greasy.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Well, and for like, people who don't have a lot of hair in certain spots,
Yeah,
let's
Yeah.
say. Uh,
Yeah.
it happens.
it happens. Well, so these are some great tips. So I feel like, so obviously be aware and get your checks at the dermatologist,
Yeah.
possibly once a year, depending on, I think maybe your family history too, maybe plays a role in your skin type
Yes.
as far as,
I'm sure when you see a doctor, they
often.
put you on a schedule and make
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
recommendations about that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they're like, oh, you need to
yeah,
be here more.
yeah.
But get on a regimen. Make sure you always have sunscreen. I like the idea of bringing it to school or having it available to kids at school. It's not something I'd ever
Mm-hmm.
thought about.
Yeah.
So that's a nice little tip to keep in mind. And the idea of like any sunscreen is better than none. I think it reminds me of like, oh, if I'm going to eat vegetables, I can only eat organic. Well, no, if you eat
Yeah.
vegetables in general, that's going to be better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Organic might be better than that, but like, let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
And that's
Exactly.
easier place to start. So
Yeah.
let's see, any other tips and the lips,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
don't forget about that. Don't forget about your parts, your
Yeah.
part,
your hair
or your
parts.
spots, whatever you have. Any other tips that we could just kind of reinforce?
Putting
Like,
sunscreen on your kids, getting it in a routine first thing in the morning, especially with the sunscreen or the skincare girlies, finding them
Yes.
a
Yeah.
face lotion that just has SPF in it. Because if they're already into the whole skincare thing, then giving them something that has the SPF in it, it doesn't, there's so many options out there now that like is a moisturizer plus an SPF. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to always be a separate thing. But just getting them in that daily habit of doing it themselves or you doing it for them, depending on their age.
I really do like your um like idea to want to put the shades over the elementary schools.
Yeah.
So if that is something that you end up promoting or working towards, let us know. We'd be happy to like help support you in moving that
Yeah.
forward. Yeah, I think
No,
that's a
that would
great
be
thing.
great. I'm already in conversations with that. It's just I've already gone and measured and I have this mental plan in my head. But it's like any house project. It's like you take it to your husband and you're like, this is what I want. And he's like,
Yes.
that is not gonna
Oh my God.
work.
Well, even I'm
So
thinking like the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, what do they have to do? That
the
project?
Eagle.
Yeah, the Eagle Scout, that would be a great one, or getting some local
yeah.
organizations involved. I think even, yes, UV protection, and I know that's definitely your angle, but I think the playgrounds get so dang hot
Mm-hmm.
anyways,
For
Yeah.
that it would be
sure.
nice to just have that little extra cool shade area.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, like, if we're talking poles with some concrete and like a big tarp type thing, it's ideally it's not a huge expense. And that's where I'm at right now is I'm trying to get just at least a rough estimate on what are we looking at based off of, how big we want to go or can go. Cause we got to make sure it's tight with the wind.
Right.
So it's not, you know,
A
but
hazard.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely that's my biggest goal for the school
Yeah.
is getting
Yeah,
that.
it's ambitious,
Great.
but it's also reasonable.
Yeah.
I like how your message you're saying, and you talked about you're not trying to make people afraid of the sun and afraid of being outdoors and all that. You're just trying to make people more aware. And I think that's
Hmm.
a really good place to start. And I feel like people can understand that and appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
ramp up the goals as they become available. I think that's the right approach.
Yeah.
And
I think adding on to this, having the kids do like the safety messages at school
Mhm.
and having just like a quick little blurb education around how we talked about you eat your fruits and veggies to protect the inside of your body. We wear sunscreen to protect the outside of our body. Here's how we do it. I think it'd be super fun to do some sort of contest and have the kids come up with like a sunscreen song. Like I've been doing like drawing sunscreen art on my kids when I put sunscreen on them, just
That's
like
cute.
anything to make it
Yeah.
fun and to make
Yeah.
it like this is like I want it to be cool. I want sunscreen to be cool for these
yeah,
kids so that it
definitely.
becomes like a what do you mean you're not wearing sunscreen? Only the cool kids wear sunscreen.
Oh,
No, I love it.
that is great. And if I don't know if we already have the links to especially the skincare that you talked about from the melanoma survivor,
Yeah.
is it MELAN melon? Maybe we can link some of
Oh yeah.
those.
If you'll just DM those to
Yeah.
us, we'll share those out too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that would be great. She would appreciate that for sure.
amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I love all your tips, and I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us and
Yeah.
sharing your story.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, if you ever have other like initiatives or other things like efforts that you're getting out,
Yeah. Let us know.
let us know.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm so glad we got to do this. I'll stop bothering you
Oh,
now.
no, no, not at
No,
all.
sorry it took so long, but
Yeah.
glad it
It's
worked.
okay.
Maybe we'll do a
Yeah,
reminder in the winter when people are like, oh,
Yeah. Heading out to ski.
I
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we could do a ski one. I also think leading up to kids going on spring
Yeah.
break, especially the high school
Um,
students, like there's no
yeah.
such thing as a base
Oh,
tan. We don't
yeah.
need to go to the tanning salon before we go to Florida or Mexico or whatever.
Yeah.
I would love to even going to the high school and talking to the kids
Yeah.
or the middle school, junior high,
Yeah.
like just doing a refresher sometime in February or
Yeah.
March.
That's a great
No, we'll
idea.
plan to do that. That's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, good luck with back to school. I know it's on
Oh,
Monday for everybody,
yes.
so
Snuck up quick.
I know, didn't it?
It
Yeah.
did.
Well, it was super nice to meet you, and
Yeah,
thank you for
you too.
getting the awareness out there.
Thank
We appreciate it.
Can we do
you.
a quick cheers picture? Do you have a drink?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
No.
Oh,
Should I go get a bottle of sunscreen?
yeah.
You should.
I have one
Oh,
handy.
yes, that's a great idea.
Hilarious.
Brought to you today by Spindrift or
Our
Junebird.
Junebird coffee
Or
trailer.
I've never tried this.
Well, we're gonna
It
try
was a
it. So we're
melon
headed
one, but
to
that's okay.
Honcho. We have a
Oh,
meeting in Honcho here in a
Yeah.
few. And because of you, we'll both be looking a little shiny
yes.
today. Yep.
Yes.
All right, we're doing a
I love
cheers.
All
that.
right.
Do I do this on here?
Just leave it. I'll just
Oh, okay.
screenshot it later. Here's our cheers.
Here's our cheers. Sunscreen cheers.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Take
Thank
care. See you
you.
later.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, end it. There we go.